So yeah, we've gone over all the mechanical stuff. We talked about the some skill development um, skill development theory. We talked about the data. Hopefully, we have a good handle on the data so far. And then last week we went over a bunch of drill ideas and training thoughts. And today, just want to dive into the mental game. We touched on it in session one 5 weeks ago a little bit, but definitely want to kind of elaborate on it today. So um, obviously, it's a big part of the game. Baseball's a game of failure, and there's a lot of adversity that comes with it. So we need to be able to control our thoughts and choose our thoughts wisely. So I think this probably is one of the most important presentations or talks that we've had of the six so far. So hopefully you guys get something from it. But so the first thing, and we kind of talked about this, like I said, about 5 weeks ago, but I'm a big growth mindset person. Our program, we have an acronym. GRIND is the acronym, and the G in GRIND stands for growth mindset. So it's very important for us. I think it really is kind of the backbone of our program. Just keeps our guys on their toes. So, but basically, a growth mindset is the idea that you embrace the fact that your traits, your physical traits, and your intelligence can be improved through hard work. Whereas a fixed mindset is the idea that kind of you are what you are, and you can't really improve your intelligence or talent through effort. So obviously, a fixed mindset, leads to a tendency to avoid challenges. People with fixed mindsets give up easily when faced with obstacles. They tend to see effort as fruitless. They ignore criticism or useful negative feedback, and they also feel threatened by the success of others. And you can see some of the quotes. I'm not going to read those, but those are some thoughts that might go through a person's head who has a fixed mindset. The growth mindset, on the other hand, as we said before, leads to a tendency to embrace challenges, persist in the face of setbacks. People with growth mindsets see effort as a path to mastery. They also learn from criticism, and they find lessons and inspiration in the success of others. So, obviously, there's a lot of benefits to having a growth mindset, and we're gonna it's kind of the backbone of this whole presentation. But as we get into it more, sorry, somebody say something there. Sorry about that. Or was that just somebody not on mute?
Somebody not on mute.
Okay. Let me check and see. Do we have everybody in this thing here? I gotta let a few people in.
I think. Oh, geez, look at you. You're so funny.
Promote to panelist. Promote to panelist. Can you do it also, Joe?
I can't. No, I'm okay. The host.
Okay. So this idea of mental toughness, what is mental toughness? These are some thoughts that I have just about being mentally tough, but I think a growth mindset plays a very important role in that. Because I think a hitter's success depends on his or her ability to work through those failures, right? There's just so much failure involved in the game that if we're going to be able to work through those and be at our best on the next pitch that we're going to see, we've got to be able to work through that stuff. So, and we talked about this at the beginning, session one, but I really like this idea of you're gonna have a slump at some point in the season. Okay, it's gonna happen, and if you accept that on the front end, okay, then when it happens, we're not going to be surprised by it. We're gonna work through it. We're gonna expect that it's going to happen at some point. When it happens, we'll be able to handle it much, much better and be able to work through it. But it helps us flush mistakes and recalibrate our focus on the current moment. It also really helps us focus on one pitch at a time and be present in the moment. there. So, and we talked about this last week, but the constraint-based approach, I think, really plays a big role in developing mental toughness. And I'll kind of explain this, but um, in practice, the way we practice and the way I've kind of presented it over the last few weeks is you want the practice to be as hard or harder than the game, so that when you get into the game slows down for you and the game seems a little bit easier. So that practice environment, I think, creates, it creates a sort of a sense of being battle hardened. And I think that it builds confidence. And I think that really contributes to the mental toughness. And I've really seen my guys, when we practice the way we do, I mean, they just get emotionally and psychologically switched on. They're really engaged, their confidence increases, and it translates over to the game itself. And I think I wanted to play this clip for you. This is Brad Stevens from the Celtics. So I'm just going to play this and shut up real quick.
You build confidence through doing really hard things over and over and over, because that's your focus, that's your intent. Your job is your focus. You know what you're supposed to do. You perform every assignment. You do it physically. You do it tough, and then all of a sudden, the ball goes in. Just kind of funny how it works. The game honors it. I had an old friend that was one of the best NAI coaches ever, and coached for 34 years in the state of Indiana. And his phrase that his team used was "the game honors toughness." And boy, is that true. You see that over and over. And so I would say that if we're struggling with the ball going in the hole, that we should just lock into what we need to do better, and that'll take care of itself. You build confidence.
So this is in the context of basketball, obviously, but I think the same holds true for baseball. I think that if you bow your neck, grit your teeth, if you're struggling a little bit, and just get back to work in a game-like environment, I think you're going to be able to work through those things, and the game will honor the toughness that you show in those moments. Phil, you got anything to add on that?
You build confidence through doing really hard.
Is Phil there? Joe, you got anything?
No, but I think that's I like the toughness thing, because I think that a lot of players in general, maybe not just kids, they just don't really know what toughness is. They rely on their talent, which some of these kids on here are pretty talented.
Yeah.
They don't really. And it was probably for you too, it's a wake up call when you get to college and you're like, oh my God, this environment's nuts. Just to, you rely on what you're good at, through high school, and you have success, and then you get to college and it's just a completely different animal.
Oh yeah.
So nothing.
I mean, in college, everybody's a 3-hitter in high school. Everybody's a 3-4 hitter in high school, and starting shortstop or center fielder. So you're competing with some pretty good talent there.
Yeah, and toughness definitely outlasts that. Those talented individuals that come in and don't have the wherewithal to be able to keep up with all that. So I like that.
Right on. All right, so moving on, we practice mindfulness at Pacific, and again, it's a practice. It's not something that you're just automatically going to be good at. You've got to practice it, and you got to work at it over your entire life. But it's basically the basic human ability to be fully present, aware of where you are and what you are doing, and not overly reactive or overwhelmed by what's going on around us. It's cultivated through proven techniques, particularly meditation, short pauses intentionally inserted into daily life, and pairing meditation practices with other activities such as yoga or sports. So obviously, if you're going to have success in this game, we've got to be able to focus on one pitch at a time, right? And that requires us to be able to recognize when we're not in the moment, when we're not present. And mindfulness is that ability to basically identify where you're at, where your headspace is. Are you in the future? Are you in the past? Or are you locked in on this pitch? And so we practice this stuff every day. We meditate every day. for usually anywhere from 2 to 5 minutes. And it's awesome for our guys because, you know, they have a busy day of school. You know, they have class, they got social life, whatever, you know, stuff going on at home, whatever. But when they get to practice, we start everything with a 2 to 5 minute session where they're just focusing on their breath, and they're scanning their body. They're kind of going through that practice of being mindful and being in the moment. So it, like I said, it involves taking time to pay attention to where you are and what's going on around you. And it starts with your body. So, and breath is really fundamental in this. And the reason why it is the breath or breathing helps us focus on our body and our mind. There are obviously physical and physiological benefits, including oxygenating your lungs and your muscles, which makes your muscles more elastic and more powerful. And it makes you more aware of where you are. Because your breath, and I think this is a Alan Jaeger thing, but your breath is always in the present. Okay, it's always in the moment. So if you take a big, long, deep breath, you're essentially connecting with that present moment. So we're big on it. It's really helped us, and I'll elaborate on how we do it a little bit more as we go. But on that note, Phil, do you have anything to add on mindfulness and presence?
I'm a monster on the mental game.
Yeah, awesome.
And let's keep going on the presentation. When we get to it, I'll jump in. 'Cause Revisa, I know Revisa, or I knew him, and most of his guys in his family tree are guys I know and work with. Joe too, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go along.
Great.
This isn't just helpful or important. This is as much part playing catch.
Oh yeah.
If you're going to if you're going to go into the cage and work over and over and over again, you need to go in the cage, do focal point breath, same routine over and over and over again, because that's a super smart way of playing baseball. And it's simple. And it used to drive me nuts when I saw guys doing that. And then they get off it. In fact, if I don't see a guy breathe when he steps in the batter's box in the game, I start breathing poorly.
Yeah.
So I'm all in on it.
Awesome. Just on that note, Coach, and we were talking about assessment days when you're doing a data assessment. And so the way we do that is we do all of our data we type it into a spreadsheet, and we have some formulas and everything to get us averages and all that. But typing that data into the spreadsheet takes a good 6 to 8 seconds. Okay. So by doing that, I'm forcing my players to take at least 6 to 8 seconds between every swing. And so I force them on days that we do assessments, I force them to go through their pre-pitch routine. So I couldn't agree more. I think we've got to avoid that mindless BP where it's one swing every 2 seconds. And it should be more of a deliberate practice where you're really focused in on each rep. So that's an awesome point. And I read this quote on the first day, but I'm going to read it again just because I think it's an unbelievable quote. But what we need in life, in art, and in sports is to loosen up, to become flexible, to get to a place where there is nothing in our way, including our own obsession with certain outcomes. Mastering our mental domain, as paradoxical as it might seem, requires us to step back from the rigidity of the word mastery. We'll get the stillness we need if we focus on the individual steps. If we embrace the process and give up chasing, we'll think better if we aren't thinking so hard. It's important for students to get lost in the process. Ryan Holiday. So Ryan Holiday wrote, stillness is the key, obstacle is the way, ego is the enemy. Really smart guy. His books are really, really good. So if anybody's into it, highly recommend it. Stillness is the key is his most recent book. So let me talk a little bit about the science of it. So the autonomic nervous system, it regulates involuntary physiological processes, including your heart rate, your blood pressure, respiration, digestion, sexual arousal, things like that. So there's a sympathetic nervous system, which is basically your fight or flight response. So if there's a saber-tooth tiger chasing you, okay, you're gonna your sympathetic nervous system is going to take over, and all the blood in your body is going to go to the big muscles so you can run and survive. Okay, so that's the fight or flight. So you're either going to fight or you're going to run. The parasympathetic nervous system has almost the exact opposite effect, undoing the work of the sympathetic division after a stressful situation. So it relaxes the body and it decreases decreasing respiration and heart rate and increasing digestion. And so right here on the right, you can see at the bottom right. So what we do is we'll play a game. You know, on a doubleheader day, we'll play a 9-inning game. And we have about 30 to 35 minutes between games to get some food and to prep our field and to just get ready for the second game. So what we do is we immediately take care of the field we have turf, so it only takes a few minutes, and then we'll head into our clubhouse and we'll literally meditate a second time, because we want to try to get back into that sympathetic, the parasympathetic state. And oftentimes, if you win or if you lose, you're really hyped up, right? Either you're frustrated that you lost or you're fired up that you won, right? So we really take that opportunity to go kind of reset, and whether we won or lost, kind of start over. And it's been really successful since we started doing that. I highly recommend that you guys do that as well. The other thing I would recommend is, if you play double headers, don't stuff your face between games with food, okay? You're going to come out sluggish in the second game. Instead, eat small snacks throughout the day, okay? Maybe during the first game, eat a granola bar and a piece of fruit. And then in the second game, if your blood sugar starts to go down, eat something. But we used to feed our team between games, and they're all starving, and they'd eat all that food, and then they'd come out pretty sluggish in that second game. So it's just something to think about as you move into college and beyond. So so there's this idea of arousal, okay? And there's this Yerkes-Dodson law here that says a degree of psychological arousal, or like stress, anxiety, etc., that those are examples of arousal, can actually improve performance. Only to a point, though. Too much or too little arousal will decrease performance. So as you can see here, low arousal, low performance. But then as that arousal goes up, okay, then performance increases. But if it gets too high, then we're going to see our performance drop off. So arousal happens when we're emotionally charged up and feel passionate about something, when we might be angry, scared, excited, joyful, or feeling the stimulation of any other emotion. So this is this ideal of arousal. I think we all need to identify that level of arousal where we're at our best. It could be, for some guys, really a little bit lower, and for others a little bit higher. So I think it's important to identify that. This is the same law, but it basically talks about complex tasks compared to simple tasks. So and it says basically that high arousal is helpful on simple tasks but harmful on complex tasks. So the red dotted line is simple tasks, and then the blue line would be hitting, okay? Because hitting a baseball is obviously a complex task, okay? We're trying to hit a round ball with a round bat, and we're trying to hit it square in a high-speed environment. It's not easy. So so we've got to be able to control our emotions, our arousal level. And we need to, like I said, we need to identify what's our ideal arousal level, and then try to purposely put yourself in that state. And that kind of leads me into routines. And this, I know, Phil, you talked about that a little bit already, but I think pre-pitch or pre-at-bat routine is a great way to kind of put yourself in that present moment. we talk to our guys about treating every pitch like it's one rep. So you're going to step out, you're going to go through your routine, you're going to step in, and you're going to treat that like it's one rep with your plan, your approach, and go get it. Get on time and go get it. And then do it again, okay? Start over. And our guys, we use focal points, and I know you talked about that a little bit already, Phil, but pick something at the field. Maybe it's a foul pole, maybe it's the scoreboard, maybe it's a logo on your bat, and step out, go through your routine, look at the focal point and take a couple big deep breaths, okay? And then step back in, go through your routine. And just the important thing is that you flush whatever happened the previous pitch, good or bad, and try to find a way to get back into that present moment. Yeah, go Phil.
So guys, here in this, there's Nomar, and here's Longoria. Longoria, really big on this. Mm-hmm. And when he went to Long Beach State as a sophomore, that's where he got dialed in with Revisa. If you go to the chat, and all you guys that are on here, go to chat, open it up, and I'll catch up because I'm trying to follow you here, Brian. So guys, I put on here, here's Ken Revisa's first book called Heads Up Baseball. And then I've got the link, Amazon link to his most recent book, Baseball 2.0, which he published just before recently passing away. And you can see that in mine, you can see it's marked up a little bit, right? And then I've got it dog-eared. I've got notes in it. That's from, good Lord, 15, 20 years ago when I first got the book. And there's an updated one called Baseball 2.0, and I've sent the link on chat. And here's Harvey Dorfman's greatest thing, The Mental Game of Baseball. And I've sent a link to Harvey's book. He's got two that really stand out. One is this one, The Mental Game of Baseball. The other is The Mental Game of Pitching, that he gets a lot of credit for. And then below that, if you're on chat, there's a Dorfman story that was out yesterday in Sports Illustrated or SI.com about how Harvey got started. Now, those two guys are the fathers of baseball sports psychology. Revisa was here in Southern California at Cal State Fullerton. He was a professor there. And when we were coaching, he was with us at Cal State Northridge. When I was at SC, he was with Fullerton. So we didn't, there was kind of a rivalry thing. So we didn't work with him there. But Ken worked with us when we were at Northridge. Joe knows Mario Soto, if you guys want to make note of that, and I'll put his name here because Mario is on social media. And you want to follow him because Mario was one of Ken's most recent, most successful proteges. And what's interesting about this is Harvey, when he got started, and I'll come back to Longoria in just a second, when Harvey got started, to gain trust of players, he literally wore an A's uniform. So they'd get away from the egghead kind of thing of that guy wears khaki pants, we're players, he doesn't understand that. He literally wore a uniform for the Oakland A's when he first started being a guy. Now, Revisa was frequently in the dugout, and he'd wear a hat, but he'd wear his regular thing. But Revisa and the Baseball 2.0 is about when the Cubs won the World Series. Revisa was in the dugout with them. He and Joe Madden were really close because Madden had worked with Revisa when Madden was with the Angels, and Joe was, and Ken was working with him at that time. Now, if you guys go to ABCA or the Coaches Convention, you'll see Tom Hansen, who is the co-author of Heads Up Baseball or Baseball 2.0. Tom is there almost all the time. Now, Tom's from Florida. If the Florida guy was here, I think he's a Tampa guy. And then here's the last thought about that. Here's the champion's mind, and that's Jim Aframo. I always mispronounce his names. Now, that's going to come back to Longoria. Keep going, and I'm going to go grab a Longoria story from ESPN, 60
yeah, that's
30
a good one.
30 or something like that. I'll go ahead and get that. But Longoria when he'd get in the batter's box, he always looked at the left field foul pole before he'd go foul pole, something on the bat, breathe. Every time. That's how much I'm convicted about this. So Brian, love this stuff. Keep going. I'll go get that link for you, for the guys.
Hey, Coach, this is Bill from Florida.
Hey, Bill.
We actually had a lot of time with Mr. Hansen.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of our kids have that book. That was one of the things he asked us to do, was purchase that book.
Smart.
It's very informative. It does have a lot of good stuff in it. It truly does.
And make sure that you set aside, it's just like Brian was saying, set aside practice time to just say who's reading it, who's using it. And like with Revisa's book, what I always told the guys, and you can see this in the table of contents, I marked up the first couple of chapters and I just said, you're going to read these things over and over again. And you got to do them. And when I was a college coach, I made them practice this in practice. We literally practiced stepping into the box and taking a breath. We practiced a lot on defense of when the guys would get their butt kicked, when they'd have that 2 error in 1 inning or 3 errors in a game, we practiced right then. And if they didn't do this, we yanked them off the field. We're brutal because that's how tough the game is. If you're not doing the super smart things, then that means you're really not trying. In fact, Joe's dad used to have a saying about that. Either you're not trying or you're dumb. And he was right, because that's how ingrained this has to be to get your head back in, make the next play. And with Baseball 2.0, there are 4 chapters there that are vital for position players, and then another one for guys that are pitchers. Thanks for bringing that up, Coach.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, Ken Revisa, I never met the guy, but I read his first book, and I'm gonna go buy his second book when I get off this call here. I've heard good things about it, but I figured it probably didn't change much from the first edition. But is there a lot of new stuff in there, Coach?
He just includes the stuff they did to win the World Series with the Cubs. That's what it's about.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Now,
who was the team? Who was the team years ago that actually had a toilet in the dugout, and they would flush it when they wanted to flush their negative.
Well, the Angels did that. The Angels did that, and then Jared Weaver used to pitch for the Angels. He had one himself. He was very emotional, somewhat immature, but he learned to do that in college, and then he literally did that. He had one about this big, a little tiny one, and Revisa kept him with it. Now, Ken was really profane. He cussed about everything. So he didn't say, oh, go to the toilet and flush the poop. He got right in the guys' faces and said, he was really direct, and he got close in their face. There was nothing subtle about Ken Revisa.
What our guys do, our guys all wear a wristband, or they wear a rubber band around their wrist. And so if they find themselves not in the current moment, or if they're running through some at-bats in their head too much, they'll just snap the rubber band, just kind of bring them back, and that's their trigger to bring them back to the moment. And it works pretty well for some of the guys. So.
Yeah, no, and that's excellent. That's one of Ken's things. That was something he grew and taught. And you can see now in Zoom webinar chat, there are the links there to the Dorfman story. That's free. There's no subscription about that. And then there's the YouTube video about Evan Longoria. And if you want to grab those and send them to your players and your families, absolutely do that, because that stuff's gold. It really is. It's a super smart way of playing a really harsh game.
Mm-hmm. Well, shoot, I can actually. I'll do that later. I think we get the point.
Both those guys went to the same high school, by the way.
Longoria and
Nomar, yeah.
Oh, did they? Wow.
St. John Bosco.
Yeah. That away, Tim. I'm giving you a fist bump here, a virtual fist bump. Good work, Coach.
Thanks, buddy.
All right, so consistent routines can certainly positively affect performance by promoting a parasympathetic response from the autonomic nervous system. So we talked about You know, if you want to get to a moderate arousal level, you feel like you're too low, too high, you go through your routine, and that can really help. You'll be calm, collected, present, confident, a sense that, you know, I've been there, done that. So it's really it's kind of like one of those mental game hacks that everybody should do is sit there. I mean, take a blank piece of paper and literally write down every little piece of your routine. And just by going through that exercise of writing it down, you'll think through it and you'll be more committed to it. So I highly recommend that you do that. So, all right. So kind of getting out of the, you know, the psychology stuff and just talking a little bit more about approach. But for me, approach starts with doing damage on the fastball. I think you take a look at the quote on the right there from Gavin Lux, but he always hunts fastballs. And I think if we do that, if we hunt fastballs and we're always on time for fastball, it can really get in a pitcher's head. And it usually takes them away from what they do really well, which is pitch off the fastball. I remember we went down to Pomona Pitzer a few years ago. And we played them, and they had their guy on the mound, and he was firm, and he had a good slider, and we were all over his fastball. And then we were taking that slider down. We were taking it, and you could almost see it on this kid's face where he was like, "Man, if they're not going to swing at that, I don't got anything to get these guys out with." You know, and it was crazy. We ended up getting that guy out in the first inning, and I think we scored 25 runs in that game. And so it's just one of those things where I think if you can be on the attack and show that you can hit a pitcher's fastball, then things will kind of fall into place for you there. It also will force pitchers to throw out of the stretch more because we're going to be getting guys on base, and a lot of times their stuff will usually drop off. And you're also going to see more off-speed pitches because runners are runners are going to be in scoring position, and they're not just going to force-feed fastballs. So really, there's a lot of benefits to hunting the fastball and being on time for that. And it just ultimately it comes down to controlling the zone and getting yourself in good counts. There's a chart on the right there. You can see the difference, and we talk to our pitchers a lot about this, but a 1-1 count, okay? The difference between 2-1, which is a 339 batting average with 574 slugging, okay, and a 1-2 count. It drops to 161 and 243 slugging. So you go from, and it's one pitch really, right? So a difference of being 1-2 and 2-1 changes, statistically it changes your ability to be successful in those counts just because of the count itself. So it just shows the importance of getting yourself into good counts and really controlling the zone and being a disciplined hitter. So you want to be on the attack. Okay, so it should be on time. Yes, yes, yes. While shutting down on pitches outside those zones. So obviously, we're going to try to lay off fastballs up out of the zone above our hands, and lay off the breaking ball down out of the strike zone there. But again, it goes back to that idea of having active takes. We're choosing to not swing, okay, not the other way around. So it's a yes, 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 yes mentality, or a yes, 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 no mentality. I can't stress that enough, how important that is. If there's anything that you get from these 6 lessons, it's that. You got to be up there looking to do damage every single pitch. So these are our 4 approaches here, okay? We hunt fast, so we have 4 different approaches that we work on, okay? And we shrink the plate. So the plate is 17 inches wide. And really, when you think about it, a baseball is almost 3 inches in diameter, right? So if the outside edge or the inside edge of the baseball catches the outside edge of the plate, it's almost like the plate is expanded from 17 inches to 23 inches, if that makes any sense. Because all you got to do is really just nick the corner, right? So 22, 23-inch plate that we've got to be able to protect, and we can't expect to cover the whole plate in every count. Okay, so what we do is we shrink the plate. So we have our guys, we actually cut out smaller plates, and we'll use those in practice all the time. And you know, because the way I look at it is if you're focused on an 11-inch plate and you chase it, that it's just a little bit outside those 11 inches, it's still over the plate. It's still over the 17-inch plate, right? So that's why we do it, is to not expand outside the 23-inch plate. So so we're either in one of these 4 approaches here. We're going to hunt fastballs in the 11-inch box, and height. The height of the pitch is important for certain hitters, and we'll kind of talk about that here in a minute. But so in this approach, we're hunting fastball, we're ambushing fastball, and we're really trying to lay off everything else. Okay, we're not trying to hit a breaking ball. We're not trying to hit a change up. If we see fastball, we're going to swing fastball. Okay, we're not going to slow our bat down and try to make contact on a changeup or a slider. Okay, we're either going to swing through that pitch or we're going to take it. Okay, we're not going to slow our bat down, like I said. Okay, and then so that's our first one. That's kind of our go-to, right? And then we have hunt off speed up in the zone in the 11-inch box. So we want to hunt off speed up over the 11-inch box. Same thing as the first one. Okay, and then the third approach that we work on is hunt fastball in the box and then adjust to off speed up. Okay, so and it doesn't have to be over the 11 or in the 11-inch box. It just has to be elevated over the plate. Okay, not all of our hitters can do this, and I guarantee you have hitters on your team that can hunt fastball and adjust off speed. Not all of our guys can do that. Okay, so we'll actually identify hitters that have the ability to adjust. And I'm talking about hitters counts, right? I'm talking about any other count that's not a 2-strike count. And we have some guys that really struggle at this. I mean, they'll be hunting fastball and the guy will hang a breaking ball and they don't recognize it. Their body doesn't stay back the way it needs to, and they just can't do it. So we don't, some of our guys, we don't even do this with them. And typically the guys that are more power hitters struggle with this because they're a little bit more aggressive with their swing. And then our fourth approach is obviously 2-strike hitting. 2-strike hitting, and we actually expand the plate here. And this is controversial. Some people say don't expand the plate, okay? But the way I look at it is the plate is kind of an illusion. Home plate is kind of an illusion. 17 inches, no way. 23 on a good day, okay? Some umpires, it'll be 24 to 26. You go get a measuring tape and see how big that is and see how much area you need to cover as a hitter. It'll blow your mind. A 23-inch plate is big. And so the reason why we use it is not to get in our guy's head about it. It's to show them how close they have to be to have plate coverage on the outer half, okay? Because if you think about it, if the ball is 3 inches in diameter, you got to cover those 3 inches and then some off the outside part of the plate. So we use bigger plates. I mean, they're big. 23 inches is pretty big. So I would recommend looking at that. You could go to Home Depot and get some old carpet squares and just cut out some pretty cheap, and it's really a good drill for your guys to get a different visual.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Bill.
So guys, here's a baseball, and the language is +1, the black +1, one size of baseball, the black +2 are there, and then it's not as common today, but there used to be a time way back really long ago when Joe used to play college ball. Long ago, like way, he's really old. Back then they would go +3 away and +1 in, and analytics today shows us that it's not quite the same, but you're looking at +2 for a right-handed hitter. You're looking at +2 away. All right, the black +2 and +1 in. And then, Brian, this is not a knock on umpires. They're human. Some umpires are my best friends. But being an umpire is tough, and you want battle station with 2 strikes, because with 2 strikes, Joe just did a stretch. That's how big the strike zone is with 2 strikes. There, that big, about the size of a refrigerator, with 2 strikes in college baseball. And it's not because those guys aren't any good. They're there to call strikes and keep things moving.
And just on that note, and I actually did some research because I didn't really know the number, but I thought it was a little bit higher than this. But actually, about 25% of the pitches that you see as a hitter will be with 2 strikes. Okay, and that's an average. The range is like 20 to 32 at the big league level. So like the best pitchers, like Garrett Cole, he's throwing 32% of the pitches that he throws are with 2 strikes.
Guys,
And some of
you
the
may, I know in high school and club ball, we have a wide variety of good and bad umpires.
Mhm.
And you get into high school and college baseball, you have a wide variety. Some are better. And in fact, in some college, it's better. Joe, which are better? High-level college umpires or umpires in rookie ball, low A and high A? Which ones are better?
The college guys are much better.
By far. And those guys, you're a hitter and you're going out to play low-level minor league baseball, boom, boom. And you're like, it skimmed the dirt.
Yeah, you get to rookie ball, and then guys are throwing like 95 at your head and then spotting a slider, +2 away, and you're getting rung up.
And then, the analytic guys will say, oh, yeah, we heat mapped it. That ball's that far outside. It's not going to hurt your career. No, it does hurt your career. You got to be up there to hit.
Mhm.
Now, guys, all this stuff that he's talking about is this is like grade A, top of the line, top of the industry stuff. Now, when he was talking, I posted up there Steve Springer's Twitter account, Steve Springer QAB quality at bat. That whole thing of hunting the fastball, be on time for the fastball. You can't hunt fastball, you can't hunt breaking ball at the same time. If you're thinking both, you get neither. And that's straight from Springer's like the guru on the mental approach to hitting. And then I also put Mario Soto, who's a sports psychologist. He goes by Sports Psych Doc. That's his kind of Twitter nickname. He's up there, and I put my cell phone up there. If you're a coach or you're a dad, and you want to contact these guys, Joe knows them, I know them. They'd be more than happy. They're all in on what we do with CBA and have been for a long time. And if you guys want to contact them, this comes with just being a part of what we're doing. Springer's all about it. Just follow him on social, reach out to him. If you need to talk to him, my cell phone's here. Text me. I'll contact. I was his agent for a while. I still help him with a lot of stuff. And the same thing, like Brian was talking about, Alan, the J-Band guy, same thing. These are all guys that Joe has grown up with. I've known forever. My kids grown up with them. Let us know how we can help you with these resources, because this stuff, the mental approach, it's gold. It's beautiful. Thanks, Coach.
And I want to say something on 2-strike hitting really fast. So when you're a hitter, I think that especially because, we're hitters are taught to be aggressive, especially early in counts, and hit the fastball and all that. But if you can really fine tune that 2-strike hitting approach, and you're comfortable, hitting deep in counts, especially with 2 strikes, naturally you become a more confident hitter earlier in counts.
Yeah.
Because now you're not going to be so aggressive to pitches you may not be able to drive earlier in counts. So now you'll be selective. You'll know what you're looking for. You're aggressive to the right pitch. And then if you get to 2 strikes, it's not going to be, oh my gosh, I'm in 2 strikes. It's going to be, you'll feel just as confident with 2 strikes as you do in a 3-1 count. And I think it's super important that hitters, especially young hitters, learn how to really get comfortable with the 2-strike count.
I couldn't agree more. I think, just to kind of piggyback that, all this talk about 2-strike hitting is important, and you need to work on your 2-strike approach, but you can't be afraid to strike out. You can't be afraid to get to that 2-strike count, and you might get a bad call by the umpire. It's just, you just can't. The best hitters in the world strike out a lot. So most of the time, the guy who's leading my team in offensive category, you know, double, extra base hits, RBIs, home runs, those kind of things. He's also probably leading the team in strikeouts. So those things are going to happen. Don't accept it. Don't just like wear it and walk back to the dugout dragging the bat with your head down. You know, keep your chest up. You know, if you strike out, walk back to the dugout with your head up. If you kind of go back to the dugout with your head down, you look like a whipped dog, in my opinion. So
now Brian, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to give you some revisit here because I've been with him a lot and with Mario. You strike out and you don't do your job. That guy comes back to the dugout and he wants high five. Don't high five that guy.
No.
Don't do that. Do not reward the guy. Now, he does his process. He's up there. He battles. He fouls off of you. He comes back. You go ahead and give him some knucks. But that guy goes up there and takes a look and he executes, he doesn't breathe. That guy, you don't reward that guy. Get away from him. That's not baseball. And that's not what we're being taught here. That's how brutal Revisit was. He's a little more brutal than that. Very colorful gentleman.
Him and Augie Garrido are boys. So.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But, yeah, and what Joe was saying essentially is like, you know, early in counts, it's going to make you a better hitter. If you're a good two-strike hitter, it's going to make you a better hitter because you're going to be more likely to take a strike if it's not the strike that you're sitting on. If it's not the strike you're looking at, you're going to be more likely to let that thing go by because you know that you can hit with two strikes. So, and that kind of leads into this video here, and I'll explain. So this idea of height is important for certain hitters, okay? And this kind of talks about it right here.
You know, I get often asked, what is all this sabermetrics? What does it mean in simple terms? Let's role play. I'm Alex Bregman. You're one of our sabermetrics guys, and you're teaching me something. What kind of information can you give me to make me better? Tell the folks at home.
Okay, so we have a chart before the game based on a pitcher's spin rate, and it'll show us how much hop they have on their fastball, whether it's perceived as 15 inches of hop, 20 inches of hop. Like a guy like Verlander is the best. He has like 20 some odd inches of hop on his fastball. So they'll show us on their charts that they have. They'll be like, hey, this guy has a lot of hop. You're going to need to swing above this guy. Or this guy is really good sinker. You're going to need to hit the bottom of this guy. So we'll be able to apply that before the game. We'll know where we need to aim on the baseball.
Okay, so if you're a vertical barrel guy and you have bad early connection scores, okay, let's say your early connection score is 115. Okay, that means you're going to have a hard time hitting a fastball up in the zone, let alone a fastball that's got 15 inches of hop. And now you're not going to know this going into a game, but what you are going to know is what your strengths and weaknesses are as a hitter, and I'm mainly talking about up and down, okay? So when you're setting up your 11-inch box, okay, you should know, hey, I'm a really good low ball hitter, or I'm a really good high ball hitter, or I'm, you know, maybe you're hybrid barrel and you set up your box in the middle because you can adjust off of that up and down, okay? So that's, to me, that's really like what you got to be able to do is take a step back, identify what the repertoire of the pitcher is, what he has, and then formulate an approach that's based around your strengths as a hitter based off of that. Does that make sense?
Yes. I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So with your two-strike hitting, we've talked about the mental stuff. What about the physical stuff? What do you have your players do physically to adjust when they have two strikes?
Personally, my only thing that I would change is, you know, unless they want to do something on their own, which I'm fine with, you know, they're comfortable with it. But the only thing that I really want to change is make sure they get a little closer to the plate to cover the outside part. But I don't have them choke up. I don't have them, you know, change their hand position or anything like that. I don't have them widen out. To me, it's more of a mentality, you know.
Right.
You know, I will not strike out, you know. I will not be defeated, you know. But I don't really believe in making huge physical adjustments, but that's just me. I don't know how you feel about it, Phil, but
keep going. I'm good. Keep going.
I'll say something on that. So in two-strike hitting, I think it's unless it's a pitch that you can drive, like to say they lead hanging breaking ball over the plate, or they leave a fastball up. If it's a pitch that's, you know, +1 or +2 off the plate, you can't be afraid to not take your best swing. You got to be okay with taking a, you know, less than optimal swing right there, just to at least put the ball in play or foul that pitch off. So just being okay with not, you know, so less than 2 strikes, you want to put yourself in a position, make sure you're only taking your best swing with 2 strikes, being okay with not taking your best swing
There's a really good video coming up here from Joey Votto, who talks about as the at bat progresses and he starts, his back gets more and more against the wall, and he starts getting behind in the count, he tries to do less, not more. So, I don't want to, I'm not doing it justice, so we'll wait till we get to that quote here. But, and this right here, this slide is all Springer stuff. So Phil was talking about Springer. Okay, watch the game. Number 1 rule. Okay, watch the game and look for what you're going to get, not what you want to hit. Okay, everybody wants to hit the fastball, and they hunt fastball every pitch. Okay, but what Springer talks about is taking fastball swings on off-speed timing. Okay, and that goes back to our approaches here, right? When we're hunting off-speed, we're fully committed to off-speed. So we're not, when we're hunting off-speed right here, we're timing up off-speed as if it's a fastball, if that makes any sense. We're not, in this approach right here, we're not on time to best fastball and then adjusting off of that to slider. We want to be on time for off speed right there. So again, watch the game. There's many different things that can help you do that. We use scouting reports. We have a center field camera, and we film all of our home games. So sometimes our guys can get on and watch a video of opposing pitchers if they happen to have pitched at our field. We use an opponent's hitting chart in game, which, or this should say opponent's pitching chart here, but it's basically shows some tendencies of the opposing pitcher. They might be all fastballs in fastball counts, or in even counts, they might be, 50-50 mix in even counts or something like that. It's just, you can pick up on certain tendencies from certain pitchers that can give you an advantage in looking for what you think you're going to get. Hitter to hitter communication is important. And that's when you really know your culture is good, is when you got kids coming off the field and their first instinct is go to the next hitter and tell the next hitter what you saw, and not like feeling sorry for himself because he just grounded out into a double play. Okay, so that hitter to hitter communication is super important in terms of the movement of the pitches and the shapes of the pitches and stuff like that. Journaling can be really a valuable tool. Just simply recalling your previous sequencing and out pitches that you've seen. And then this is something that Springer talks about too, but identify another hitter in the lineup who is similar to you and is ideally hitting in front of you in the order, so you can kind of pay attention to how the pitcher is working that hitter. Okay, so if I'm the 6 hitter and I'm a righty and the 4 hitters are righty, okay, I'm going to study how that pitcher attacks the 4 hitter so that I know what I'm going to see first pitch. What's his out pitch for righties? What's he going to throw when he falls behind? Okay, how does he like to pitch with runners in scoring position compared to with nobody in scoring position? So they'll give a lot away on what you can expect to see just if you watch the game and pay attention. And then make the necessary 2-strike adjustments to compete. And coach, when I say adjustments, it doesn't necessarily mean physical adjustments. It's more of just a mentality, right? An adjustment to your mentality.
Yeah, guys, so Brian was pointing out where it says, watch the game, right? That's the first bullet point here. Springer, if he was on here, he'd say, don't watch the game, watch the ball. The ball will teach you what's happening in the game. And specifically, so let's say you're a number 3 hitter and you're a lefty and you're tall and thin. They're not going to pitch you the same way they do a righty guy That's Joe or me. But if you're similar body shapes, they're going to pitch you, and if you're similar in the order, they're going to attack you very similarly. Because remember, it's the pitching coach or the head coach that's dictating that in a lot of high-level baseball. That's where it's very easy to say, how is the pitcher attacking similar hitters? They need to go to school on that, and the only way to do that is watch the ball. Is it a strike or not? Is it a fastball or not? It just that simple. Watch the ball, and then of course we're big in picking pitches and stealing signs.
Yeah.
So you can't do that if you don't watch what happens. And you can take a breath between pitches and kind of zone out. In fact, that's a revisit tenant, is zone out for a little while between pitches. But don't watch. I always tell you guys, don't watch the game. Watch the ball. And in the dugout, when I say watch the ball, you'll see the heads snap right to where the ball is, because they were just kind of watching the game. They were zoned out. But when you say watch the ball, their mind goes right to that. And you want that. That's a really good thing in the dugout to see who's dialed in and who's really paying attention.
Good stuff. All right, I got a couple videos for you here. First one is I'm a big Edgar Martinez fan, so my favorite hitter of all time, favorite right-handed hitter of all time. So play this one for you.
As a Seattle fan, they would probably say the most important at bat in Edgar Martinez's life was the hit that drove in Griffey. What do you think was the most important at bat?
I think that was the one. Yeah, I agree.
So take us through that.
90 feet away, the tie. Joey Cora Jr. over at first, representing the winning run. Nobody out for Edgar Martinez.
The previous at bat.
I knew you were going to go back to the bat before. Yeah. Because that's how you think.
Yeah, the previous at bat, kind of similar situation. The game on the line like that, and he struck me out with the split finger.
Got him. Edgar Martinez is fanned by Jack McDowell.
And after that, I said, okay, I'm looking for a split. You know,
so you sold out, the whole AB.
Sold out. So the next pitch was a split, kind of the same location, and I was able to connect and hit it over.
Go Mariners. Am I right?
Yeah.
No, but I mean, the greatest moment in Mariner history was because Edgar Martinez had a good approach, because the previous at bat, he got punched out on a splitty, and he took that into the next at bat.
And yes, when Manny was hot, he did a mistake. I watched Manny Ramirez in multiple games tell me, I'm going to look for a curveball. I will not swing until I get it. Third at bat, he would not have taken the bat off his shoulders. He had first curveball he gets, he hits it out of the ballpark. That's what great, and it's fun to watch. And this guy is so fun to watch. Let me add something.
So again, hunting pitches, guys. Sitting on pitches.
Yes, when Manny was hot.
I'll never forget it. 3-2 changeup. He taps it back to the pitcher. He runs down to first base. He comes in. He sits next to me. I'm just excited to be sitting next to Chipper Jones. And he said, "Hey, kid, he throws me that pitch again. It's going deep. I'm going deep." Right? Your third AB to win the game. 2 men on. He threw him the changeup again. Dead center.
Because, I mean, if you have success against a young hitter, all right,
yeah, you got to prove it that you can.
You got to prove to these guys that you can make an adjustment and that you're going to hit it. So if a guy gets me out with a changeup early in the game, why am I not going to be sitting on that at crunch time, later on in the game? Most guys just think,
Now, is that different than
pitchers are brain dead beavers and they're just going to keep going.
Is that different than being a guest hitter as opposed to sitting on a pitch?
I feel like that's being disciplined. It's not guessing, it's sitting and waiting on a pitch. And that discipline.
So same thing there. And this kind of goes back to Coach Bill, I think you were asking about, what kind of adjustments you make. But this is that Votto video I told you about.
I try to make sure that I pay attention to what the pitcher's throwing, watch his video, and pick out the pitches that I can handle. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a fastball. It doesn't have to be, that grooved 90-mile-an-hour fastball down the middle or away or whatever. It can be any pitch as long as I can handle it and do damage. And I take the at bat, and I take steps down. So at the very beginning of the at bat, I'm thinking about something I can hammer through the gaps. And as the at bat ticks down, and I become more against the wall, my back gets pushed more against the wall, I try to do less during the at bat. And until I get to 2 strikes, and I'm just trying to put the ball and play hard, try to not strike out, and do something for my team.
I tell you what, I honestly think that's why.
I try to make.
So that's Joey Votto. I mean, those are some pretty good hitters there, and all of them, there's a common theme there. They're all kind of doing the same thing there, hunting pitches. So this is something that we do at Pacific. We go through an exercise where we'll talk to our guys about, when you were at your best, what were you thinking? It's only like a 3-word, 4-word phrase. And then we write it down, and then our third base coach literally says it to our hitter every time he comes up to plate, just to put him in that headspace, right? Where he's confident. And so these are some examples. Be on time, okay? See ball, hit ball, keep it simple, have fun, bear down. These are some examples of some phrases that our players have come up with for their hitter cues, and our guys love it. And so something to think about. And then self-talk and visualization. And to me, it's not positive or negative self-talk. It's helpful versus harmful, because sometimes negative self-talk could get your butt off the couch, right? You could be like, quit being a lazy bum, or, you're better than that, Billings, whatever. But so to me, it comes down to helpful versus harmful, and being able to and that's why, again, going back to mindfulness, it's important to identify where you're at, right? And then intentionally put yourself in the right headspace. Visualization, seeing yourself having success. We even put together highlight videos for our guys on Huddle. So if, we'll have a hitter and he'll have like a highlight video, and he could put it to music and listen to it on the charter bus on the way to the yard, just to get him in the right space there. But again, it just goes back to like choosing, taking control of your thoughts and choosing to intentionally replace your thoughts. And that's it. That's all I got. So.
Well, let me give a couple of big league tips. Dave Winfield never played a day of minor league baseball in his life, and Hall of Famer. And he had 2 things about the mental game. 2 things about the mental game. One, he only wanted to see video of him being successful. That's it. Base hit, line, single, double, triple homer, making a catch. He never watched video of him, because he always wanted to have that script. That's all he wanted in his mind. He wanted to visualize success. He wanted to see him doing well, which is building on what Brian was talking about. That's 1. 2, he always identified the most negative teammate and or coach on every team he was on, and he went to the opposite side of the clubhouse. He said, okay, I got it, that guy, fill in the blank, this is his deal. I'm staying away from, I can't hear that every day. Which is a lot of times when you get into college baseball, you think, why is Mr. Big Name guy not having more success? And then Joe played for a guy, Tony Gwynn, who was monster into the total game, into the mental game. And Tony had lots of little things. And I'm going to give you guys a revisit thing. There are no little things in baseball. There are no little things in big league baseball. There are no little things in high school baseball. There are no little things. There are no small details, is how Revisa put it. There are only details. That's it. No, none are really, really big. None are small. Because that way, if we start thinking there are small details, we overlook them. And we forget our routines. So when we coach routine, the guys have to do it. And then, the coach was talking about how different college baseball is. If you're the guy in high school baseball and you go 2 for 3 and your team wins and you screw up a routine, what's the coach going to, he's going to, hey, try it again next time. In college baseball, in the Big West of Pac-12, and I'm sure it's all, you do that, you do it wrong, they're in your face like an assistant football coach. And it's alarming when it first happens. And you're like, wow, what did I do? Things are going okay. Go ahead, Brian.
I was just going to piggyback that, like, that's why one of the reasons why we really want to know what our hitters' routines are, or even our pitchers' routines, because if it's a big moment and we notice that that hitter is not going through his routine, timeout, time, come here, you know, call time. You're
Coach,
allowed.
let me give you an example of what we did.
Yeah.
It was not timeout. Is you make me sick. Get off the field. And now I was nice. I was the nice guy, but I just said, you're making me sick. Get off the field. Now, so there are ways to get the guy's attention. And then, you know, one of Tony's things that was really good is he would watch his outfielders during BP. Are they taking game-like fly balls? Are his infielders taking game-like ground balls? Now, Tony was gentle because he was always, you know, he's into repetition. Well, it's not that way, you know, at all in most college baseball. Because Brian, we loved them. We had relationship with them, but we just said, look, we can't be subtle about this. You're making me sick. Get off the field. Let the next guy. And I always say, either you're helping the other team or you're helping us. And if they're not doing that, go sit in the other dugout and help them win, because that's what you're doing. And you know what? The other guys relate to that because they're saying, hey, I'm sacrificing for the team. I was Mr. Guy in high school and I'm not here. You need to do the same. That's why these routines are so important, and the information we shared has such value, because this stuff's gold. And I feel badly when I go see teams play, doesn't matter, or players. I feel badly when I watch them and they're not doing any form of mental game, because it's a super smart way to play. It's a great way to help your team win. And when you don't do that, I feel badly for those guys. They get frustrated. When I was an agent and I had a guy that didn't grow up in that kind of environment, every one of them talked about how jealous they were of guys who grew up in an environment where they did mental game and they went through details and got barked at when they screwed up. Because that's how you learn this stuff and really drill it in there.
And I do want to say, and chime in here, that, you know, if guys aren't taking the opportunity to get involved with this, and, you know, obviously, Brian, you've done a great job with these presentations. Phil, thank you so much for being on here and dropping some knowledge. But, you know, as a player, and I learned this early on, even when I wasn't very good, you can't be competitive if you don't prepare well, right? And so at some point, I wanted to be the most prepared player out there. I never wanted to be out prepared. And so
growth mindset.
So and you know, I was right around like 13, 14 years old where I started realizing, you know, if I'm going to be 5'8" the rest of my life, which, well, I didn't realize I was going to be that the rest of my life till I was 20. But if I'm going to be if I'm going to be one of the shorter guys, right, or the smaller guys in stature, I got to be able to find my edge and what I bring to the table every day. And it's not going to be easy. Not going to be as easy for me as it would be for, you know, 6'3", 220, you know, so, you know, and that mindset can be, you know, anybody can adopt it. Even if you are 6'3", 220, that just makes you even better. So, you know, for the guys that are on here, you know, you have teammates that are probably out at the pool not doing a whole lot right now, or just hanging out. Invite them in next week. You know, invite them in. You can never get enough information on this. You always got to get better. There's always a way to improve, and this is a big way to improve. It's almost, you say 99% of your peer group is not doing this stuff. So what you know and what you bring to the field next time you're able to play, you already have a huge advantage just by being a part of these things here. So,
guys, I'll finish with the last thing. I see Greg Wood and his son Carter over his shoulder. Carter, wave at all the guys. I've been with Carter now for 2 years, maybe 2.5, 3 years, and he knows I care about him, but I've been really stern with him out on the field. Now, he figured out early on he wanted to please, and the things we were doing were helping him get better. He realized that when Joe showed up at practice, he got better as an infielder. He saw that when guys that listened better and paid attention, when they got better, he wanted that. Now, that doesn't mean I've been nice to him every time, or I don't get kind of excited or correct him, but we have relationship, and he knows how much I care about him, and I really do. He knows that for sure. That's an example. And Joe and I will talk about Carter occasionally because he has a chance to be a good ball player. He's got to take care of business day to day. And if he doesn't, we're going to be mad at him. That's why you have relationship. And in college baseball, there's so much time you have away from the field when you're not barking at him. But when you're on the field, different deal. It's okay. It's okay.
And then we do host this as a meeting so that there is a formal dialogue from time to time. So if there is questions from you guys, we can unmute yourself. If you're taking notes, that's even better. These presentations will all be on the website here shortly. I'll probably get them all on by tomorrow, hopefully. We have about 3 weeks worth of workshops I need to go on there, but I really want you guys to get involved with these types of things and dialogue so that you learn how to communicate, one, with your coaches, right, your teammates, and then you can do that here, and then you can take that back to the field and do it there as well. And that's how you kind of you can kind of create that camaraderie and culture that you want in the dugout or the clubhouse. So if you have questions, feel free. Or if you think you're really good, don't worry about it.
Coach Billings, I just wanted to thank you personally. It's been so informative, so great. Coach Phil, same thing. So much great information, and you can't even put a price on this stuff, man. It's been really fantastic. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it means a lot. Thank you for saying that.
And for the guys that are using the blast sensors, a lot of this stuff, maybe not today as much, but the workshops, go look at the prior workshops. There's a lot of key details in there that'll help you better use your sensor at home, so you have some type of direction, so you're not just out there free swinging, which I like to use that term, but gives you purpose, give you some drills, give you something to work on, focus on. All right.
Hey, actually, Tim and maybe Phil and really anybody, I think we're going to keep these rolling, right? Right, Joe? We're going to keep doing these. So is there anything that you want to go back and kind of go over more of or talk about more? I have some thoughts on some things I want to kind of go back and touch on, some timing things.
Yeah.
But is there anything that comes to mind, Bill?
I think a full 2-strike day is great.
Yeah, I think the approach for some of the younger kids, especially down here, us joining the CBA family this year was a big step for us. So, hearing how you guys are doing things over in Cali and all over on the West Coast, it's a wee bit different than how we're doing it down here. But in all actuality, the way you're explaining it and the way I want these kids to understand is a lot easier. And you know how it is when a kid hears something from their everyday coach or their father, it goes in one ear and goes out the other. But when they could jump on one of these conference Zooms and hear it from you guys, it kind of sinks in. So I like the one you did today a lot because I feel it'll help our kids tremendously.
Yeah. And you guys have a classroom setting over there too, right? At your, maybe it's something where I could send you guys as workshops so you guys can go over it together. Or I don't know if it's something where you guys can all get together and watch this on a Thursday. Because in the past, you guys
we do have like a clubhouse for the kids to come into, and we would have to do it probably in different sessions, especially now with the social distancing issues. Like maybe one week we could do the seniors on like a Tuesday, and then that Thursday we could do the JV.
Gotcha.
But our coaches, of course, Ralph and myself, we're on. Victor couldn't make it today, but I know Ralph is on, and myself, and our kids watch this with us. So they go and they talk about it to some of their friends, so it helps out, just spreading the word. But this would be great if we could do that.
Yeah, everybody's welcome to be on here. So we'd like to have you guys, and then something where we can implement these things, and you guys will have an easier time reinforcing this stuff as coaches.
Absolutely.
It'll be easier when you fly down here and give us a class.
Oh, here we go.
Give me a day. I'll go out there.
Oh, well, we gotta set it up. We gotta set it up before you start your season.
I'll go.
That's fine with me, Bill.
Listen, we're starting practice this Tuesday coming. We actually got permission to be on the field, so
cool.
It's time for these guys to grind.
Awesome.
You know, we were blessed that we're able to host the state championships this year at our fields, at our facilities. So that's coming up in July. So we got to get these kids ready.
Awesome, man.
Hey, Joe, I need you to send me banners. If you have any banners with CBA so we could put them on the field.
I could send you one banner I have.
Well, if you could send me one and I could duplicate, if you give me permission to duplicate it, I could get it done.
All right. I got one
That
banner.
is a picture of Joe laying down sideways.
And by the way, the other coaches that are on, Coach Tim, Coach Bill, Coach Phil, thank you very much, man. Thank you very much for including us in this.
Absolutely.
Thanks for the opportunity. This has been so fun. I learned so much.
I'm enjoying this.
We're continuing this, correct,
Yeah.
sir?
Yeah.
All right, great.
All right, guys. My doorbell keeps ringing.
Uh-oh.
All right, buddy.
All right, guys.
Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Thank you, guys. Thank you again.
We'll see
Everyone
you
have a
next-
safe evening.
See you guys next week.
All righty.